I want to talk about the difference between self-protection and self-defense. So here at PAX, we think of self-defense as that moment where an altercation is happening. There's a confrontation, somebody's grabbed you, you need to respond right away, right? That's the self-defense moment. But self-protection is a much bigger idea. So it begins well before any altercation has taken place, with all the things you're making decisions about ahead of time and just where you end up in your life. And then it also includes a resolution component. So we're going to talk about all of that today. One of the first things that we think about is situational awareness, right? What's happening in our surroundings. So I don't want to, like, none of this is all to help you think proactively about self-protection so that you can make the best decisions for you. This is not intended to make you paranoid. This is not intended for you to just, well, I might as well just stay home because there's no point in going anywhere, something bad could happen, right? Like, that's not what we're looking for. The way I kind of think about it as I move through the world, I'm sort of, those of us who are drivers can think about it like, I'm paying attention, right? I'm looking up, I'm looking out, I'm aware. I don't think every car is trying to hit me. I don't think every dog that's being walked is gonna jump out into the street, or a little kid's gonna jump out in the street, but I'm aware that it could happen. So I'm paying attention, but I'm not paranoid, right? That's the level of sort of awareness I'm thinking that we should try to have as we move through the world. So, okay, so as we're assessing our surroundings, here are some of the things to be thinking about and looking for. Where are the exits, right? What's the sound like? Is it really noisy? Am I in a concert and I can't hear anything? Or do I have an earbud in? I would recommend just one, because two, it makes it harder to hear if somebody's sneaking up behind you. What is their cell service, right? Are there other people around? Is there some place where somebody could hide? Lighting, is it dark, right? Is it light out? Those kind of things. So I'm gonna, and you know, sometimes we assume like, oh, the dark alley, late at night, that's the most unsafe place to be, but really bad things can happen anywhere at any time. So a story about my daughter, who is an adult. She was walking her dog. She lives in Southern California. It was a mid-afternoon, bright sunny day, and she was, there's a major street not far from her apartment, 2 lanes each way, so she was on one side of the street. Again, very, lots of cars going by. She was in kind of a parking lot area. Not a lot of cars parked there, but there were some people kind of walking around, lots of people milling around. So what happens is she's walking her dog and she sees a man kind of walking towards her, and it looks like at some point he's going to come past her. And she is worried about her dog, because this is not long after COVID, and the dog is still pretty young, hasn't been well socialized, is very aggressive towards particularly men, right? A lot of barking and kind of pulling at the leash. So my daughter turns and is trying to calm her dog down. Again, bright sunny day, lots and lots of people around. The man does start to pass her, but ends up grabbing her bag. So she has a bag over her shoulder, grabs the bag and is trying to yank it off of her shoulder. So bad things can happen anywhere. So in retrospect, it would have been great if she had been looking up and looking out at him. He probably wouldn't have tried to do something. That's not what happened. My daughter, thankfully, has a lot of years of martial arts experience. She has a black belt. She was able to give him a look that really expressed to him in no uncertain terms that he needed to let go and move on with his life, which is what happened. She freaked out afterwards, but in the moment, she had that peak performance of just automatically having this response. So that was fantastic. Although ideally, it wouldn't have happened even in the first place. If he had still persisted in trying to grab her bag, she probably would have let go, right? Because her person is more valuable than whatever is in her bag, and it's more important to keep your person safe than to avoid having somebody mug you or steal from you, right? At the end of the day. But thankfully, all's well that ends well. So, what can make us a target in particular? So a couple things I want to talk about. Number one, there are things that we can control and there are things that we can't control, right? So things that we can control are looking up, assessing a situation, being aware, not being on our phone all the time, looking confident, having other people with us. These are kind of things that can kind of help protect us, and there are things that we can choose. There are things we can't choose, right? We can't choose the color of our skin. We can't choose if we're neurodivergent. We can't choose if we're queer or trans, right? Those things just are, and they do make us targets, unfortunately. So it's interesting also to keep in mind that people who might try to harm you, right? We know hate crimes are up, particularly for the LGBTQ plus community. We know that those are more likely to be a stranger, right? And you are also potentially can be harmed by somebody that you know, and that in a sexual assault situation, for example, people are more likely to know the attacker, and that could be an intimate partner, it could be a family member, you know, an acquaintance, whatever. So just the idea of this is just, again, be aware, and so you're moving through the world with this awareness. And I think, just to make a point about if it's somebody you know, sometimes we tend to give those people a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, like we assume good intention, right? And most of the time our friends and family members hopefully do have good intentions, but it's still wise to be aware and looking at some indicators, their behavior. So what are those indicators, right? We're gonna talk about that. Lots of different things can give us a clue that somebody might want to harm us. So those things could be, well, let's talk about personal space. We talked about it a little bit in the first class, and I didn't specify, although I think it's important to make the distinction that this amount of personal space is something that we're pretty comfortable with in the United States, but different cultures have different comfort levels, right? In some cultures, being much closer physically together is very normal. That person invading your space is not necessarily an indicator. Doesn't mean you don't want to still have your space, but they're not trying to harm you, right? People who have neurodivergent situations also, maybe they have a different comfort level with space too. So again, this is not a person who's trying to harm you. It's just somebody who has a different comfort level. But if you're in a situation where somebody is in your personal space and there's no reason to think that they should be for other reasons, especially if you've taken a step back and they're following you, right? Or let's say they're in your blind spot here, they're right outside your vision, and again, you go to correct and they also move, that can definitely be an indicator. A fixation on you, somebody who's kind of focused on you, even if other things are happening, somebody who's stalking you, somebody who's using belittling behavior, right? So somebody who's maybe questioning your sexuality or dead naming you or misgendering you, especially if they're doing those things on purpose, right? That can definitely be an indicator. Verbal threats, right? Somebody telling you that they're gonna harm you. That's definitely an indicator. Physical aggression that hasn't turned into actually physically touching you, but things like posturing, sudden moves, blocking your exit, punching a wall, or maybe knocking a glass off the table. Those things are all physically aggressive and can let you know that somebody might want to harm you. One of these things by themselves, maybe you can, okay, that's probably not somebody trying to harm me. But if you've got a few, then yeah, it can be definitely time to start thinking about what am I going to do next, and maybe making a plan. And I would say trust your gut, right? Even if it's just one thing, if you've got a gut feeling that something's off, I would trust that, right? And a gut feeling is a little bit different than just the feeling of general anxiety. That tends to be more in the head. Your head's kind of thinking all these thoughts. But a gut feeling is more in your body. So if you've got a gut feeling, I would definitely listen to that and take the opportunity to assess the situation, make a decision. Is it time to go? If you can't go, what are you going to do? Make a plan.